All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday here with Greg Ehrenberg as we get ready for a little NBA Live Before Lock 3-game slate today. It's going to be an interesting one. Can we use the word interesting for this? I see I have created a unique shadow on my face here, so that'll be fun. Oh, well, it's Saturday. We're going to have some fun. Chris Williams doing Chris Williams things, dropping in some subscriptions there to the YouTube chat. So enjoy, everybody. Greg, I was almost gonna miss doing any shows with you this weekend.
Well, were you almost gonna have to ask off for Saturday as well? Because you had asked me for Sunday night off, but I didn't know that Saturday was a possibility.
Well, no, I just, since we seem to have revolving musical chairs here and unique combinations
Gotcha.
thereof, and like two ships in the night, oftentimes we are passing. But how's it been? I saw the glorious show yesterday with Josh when you guys created the, what should we call it,
The face swaps with Eric Lindquist, which, listen, we found out that Eric looks like many different celebrities. I don't know why it upsets him. Most people are happy to hear they look like celebrities. Most people are happy to know they look like a former president, but not Eric Lindquist. He every time it's like you tell him, hey, look, Eric, you look very, very similar to famous comedian Ellen DeGeneres, and you do the face swap and it looks exactly the same, and that offends him for some reason. I truly don't understand it.
I don't know. He should be honored. He should be honored. And I felt that he is more presidential than I am, just looking at some of his photos.
I mean, when the presidential race happens later on in the year, a lot of people are starting to realize that it's likely to come down to you and Eric. So two Erics going head to head for the 2024 candidacy. And yeah, we've got you and the t-shirts we made at one point. We've got Eric being face swapped. So there's a lot to consider for this election.
There is all sorts of stuff going on. I see somebody asking in chat about baseball. So we have the content. We've got the free article on the homepage. We got all the tools, all that. Well, we should have some time. We can answer a few questions towards the end here for baseball. But let's jump in here. Let's kind of set the stage game by game just real quickly, because ultimately it's all going to come down to when we get additional information from who is playing and starting for Philadelphia and Memphis. But currently we know that Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, and Desmond Bain are all out. Aldama played last night, I believe. You've got Luke Kennard and Brandon Clark questionable. I don't think either one of them played last night. Jake LaRavia and Lamar Stevens both played last night. They are actually doubtful. I think LaRavia actually did kind of hurt himself a little bit there. So a lot of question marks here. They had just eight players suited up last night. You got to have 8 in uniform to play. Yep. It doesn't mean you have to put 8 on the court. So we'll see what happens there. And then on the Philadelphia side, they play again tomorrow against San Antonio. Now, it wouldn't shock me if Maxey or Embiid didn't play full minutes tonight, but it does seem like they are trending towards playing here. Both were at shoot around, same with Tobias Harris, and they are in need of wins here because they can work their way out of the play-in tournament. Which is rather interesting. And then on the Atlanta side, the only news we're waiting on now, it looked like not too much, but Jamal Murray may be missing his 8th game with a sore ankle. You have Reggie Jackson that popped up on the midday injury report with an illness. And then Aaron Gordon went from probable or not on the injury report to a strained right foot there. Denver's still favored by 12. Both teams are playing in this one because Atlanta has a chance to move ahead of Chicago and host Chicago in the play-in tournament. The Eastern Conference has already decided. We know what 10 teams are still jockeying for position, but Denver is tied with Minnesota at the top of the Western Conference standings. They do not have the tiebreaker Minnesota does, and Oklahoma City is just a game behind. So there are implications here for a variety of things, but our first game, Detroit and Brooklyn, yeah, not a whole lot there. I wouldn't expect Cade Cunningham to play until the 11th of Thursday, or 11th of April, which is next Thursday, Greg.
The 11th of Thursday.
The 11th of Thursday. I will gladly pay you next Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's the last and only remaining home game on Detroit's schedule. I'm guessing he plays that one, but none of the other ones. But wow, Evan Fournier ruled out. Taj Gibson available to play tonight after dealing with the hamstring. So we've got a lot of moving parts here. What is your biggest surprise or shock here, if anything?
Just in terms of like players that are on the injury report, or
players that might or might not be available.
Yeah, so I would be very surprised if Joel Embiid plays today. The 76ers have a game tomorrow as well, and I'm very skeptical that Joel Embiid is cleared to play on back-to-backs. This is what, his third, or would it be his fourth game back from knee surgery?
Oh, it's only his third.
So, I mean, with that in mind, this would only be his third game back. I would be stunned if he's cleared to play in back-to-back. So with that being the potential case here, if you're the Philadelphia 76ers and you do have the option, and I could be wrong, we could find out that he is cleared to play in back-to-backs. But under the assumption he cannot play today and tomorrow, and we know that the 76ers are hurting for wins, right? Just where they are in the standings. We know that they're very live to win out because of how easy their schedule is. But if you have a choice to either play Joel Embiid today against a Grizzlies team that might only have 6 healthy players, they're going to have 8 active players, but they might only have 6 healthy players they could actually field. The 76ers are 14-point favorites today. If I'm Philly, I'm sitting Joel Embiid today and I'm playing him tomorrow against Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, that does make the most sense in all of this. So we're kind of seeing that alike. And do you think, or I know you agree with this, this is Glenn Rivers' best chance to get Philadelphia into the title game, isn't it?
I mean, Rivers doesn't have any impact on this. He's not coaching today.
But he's going to run Milwaukee into the ground. So Philadelphia really is only going to have to clear Boston if things play out right.
I see what you mean. Well, we'll see what ends up happening with those first round matchups. As somebody who is holding a futures ticket on the Philadelphia 76ers, my hope is that they play pretty much anybody other than the Boston Celtics. I don't care if they play the Bucks in the first round. I don't play if they play the Cavs in the first. I just don't want them to play the Celtics in the first round.
All right. Are you ready for a little Ace of Spades tiers questions to get things going?
Yeah, let's go and we can talk about Ace of Spade.
All right. It would look to be that Nikola Jokic has a dramatic command of tier 1 over DeJounte Murray, because I don't, as you mentioned, I don't think Embiid is going to play, and if he does, not a ton of minutes. So tier 1 is easy. Tier 2, we have Tyrese Maxey and Cameron Thomas vying for the top. Do you have your eye on either one of those guys?
Yeah, so tier 1, very clearly Nikola Jokic for me. So want to make that clear here. In tier 2, that is going to be Tyrese Maxey for me. I mean, it would already be Tyrese Maxey, but then also with me assuming that Joel Embiid doesn't play today, even a clear lean towards Tyrese Maxey.
All right, which takes us over here to tier 3. I'm a little nervous about Jalen Duren. Last night, the only player that played more than 25 minutes for Detroit was Ivy. So I'm a little nervous about Duren. I'd rather Mikal Bridges in that one.
Yep, Mikal Bridges for me as well in tier 3.
Tier 4, you've got Nick Claxton, the aforementioned Jaden Ivey. They're kind of dueling. I like dark horse Dennis Schroeder. He's about 3 fantasy points behind, but I think he has the best chance at a ceiling.
Yep. So for me, that is going to be Nick Claxton in tier 4.
Tier 5, we'll call that the Memphis tier. You got Gigi Jackson, Jordan Goodwin, Scottie Pippen, and then just for fun, they're throwing in Marcus Sasser there. But LaRavia, we don't believe is going to play, and Cam Johnson's already ruled out. So who do you like there at that tier 5?
Yeah, I would like to see the Grizzlies starting lineup, but Gigi Jackson, I do think is going to be in the starting lineup. I think he's going to play a significant amount of minutes, so give me him there.
All right, and then tier 6, it's kind of coming down to Trendon Watford, although we don't know how many minutes he's going to play versus their rookie there in Brooklyn, or their second, Clowney, I think is his name, and Malachi Flynn. Malachi Flynn dropped 50 and then dropped a donut last night. He was 0 for 12 from the field.
Did you see his quote after the Big 50 burger?
I did not.
Yeah, he was very adamant that it was in no way a fluke. And then he goes out and shoots 0 for 12 the next game. Anyway, it is Malachi Flynn for me in this tier. But yeah, he was reading the comments online. He was like incensed. He was like, I can't believe people are calling this. I'll try to find the quote right here. But he was very adamant that in no way was a fluke.
That is funny.
Let me find it. I'll find this quote in a second.
All right. While you're looking for that, I want to remind
Here it is. Here it is. Yeah. So Malachi Flynn on his 50-point game, I don't think it's a fluke in any way. And then so he somehow simultaneously had the biggest outlier game of his career and the most bizarre 50-point game we will ever see, followed up by what was likely the worst game of his career.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's just crazy. All right. So let's see here. What can I do to make Jacob Vintner happy? I'm going to talk about Sleeper because Sleeper is offering a $500 deposit match with your first deposit. It is your first deposit, mind you. That's people asking about that earlier today or last night. It's your first deposit, but you got to come in through the link that is in the YouTube description below us here. That is very, very key. Of course, we have Odd Shopper, which does support all of the different pick'em sites. So that is a helpful tool that we have in conjunction with Sleeper. But that $500 deposit match is one you're going to want to jump on there. So we thank them for sponsoring the show. Did I miss a tier? Did not do tier 6?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was Watford and Malachi Flynn. I'm leaning towards Watford.
Yeah. No, we both gave answers for that one, though.
Just in case, because I wanted to make it a little bit longer if possible to have a call back there just to get some people riled up. It'll be a good time. All righty, Greg. So up at the top here, we've got Jokic. Jokic has, if we assume Embiid is out, the only other person within 15 median fantasy points of Jokic is going to be DeJounte Murray. You can build lineups with both of them. How do you want to approach our big decision tonight?
So, I mean, to me, the big decision is more along the lines of which Memphis guys do we want to play? Jokic, to me, is just impossible to get away from. We have unlimited value considering the Grizzlies situation where they're going to have 8 active players. We know that for sure. If they don't have 8 active players, they forfeit the game. I don't even know what is the actual protocol if you don't have 8 active players. You just don't show up. Everybody, the fans go back home and they get their tickets refunded. It would be an unforeseen scenario. So even though we do have guys like Brandon Clark listed as questionable on the injury report, there is certainly a scenario where the Memphis Grizzlies ultimately decide that, hey, these guys aren't fit to play, but we need to activate them just so we could field a full team and actually play today. They are very live to just do a 6-man rotation today. Here is the trickle-down effect of that. We have so much value today and so much of being on the Memphis Grizzlies that you just have to spend up somewhere. And Nikola Jokic is the only reasonable selection. So just by default, Jokic is the guy who I get the most exposure to on the slate.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. How many lineups would you build before he doesn't appear for you? Like 50, 60?
Well, he's in 70. So I'm not playing 150 lineups tonight, but I did build out 150 lineups just for the purpose of us doing the show and me being able to figure out, like, all right, if I was playing 150, what would the exposures be here? So, I mean, if you're playing 10 lineups, you'd be in 7 of them for me.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. Dorian Finney-Smith's dad is in attendance tonight. We have the president of the Caitlin Clark lookalike fan club in there dropping off some information for us. So thank you. And Mr. Lindquist, yes, we can. Let's see. We have top plays at FanDuel by each position. And can we get an MLB dinger call here? Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. The dinger call for me is going to be a little off the board. I'm going with Nelson Velasquez. He is in Kansas City tonight. And I'm blanking on who Chris Flexen is who Kansas City is facing. Flexen washed out with the Mets, reinvented himself in the KBO. Was back with the Mariners, and they had to cut him because he was so bad about a year and a half into his resurgence there. He was in Colorado last year, was even worse than what he was with the Mariners, and he signed a 1-year, $1.75 million deal with the White Sox to bolster their roster or their rotation. So I would say definitely Nelson Velasquez.
All right. So
what do you got for FanDuel points?
Well, let's do I'll get the home run call out of the way first. I haven't looked too much at tonight's baseball slate. I'm going to say no Coors Field players allowed. I'm looking at our top batters tool and kind of navigating some of the players that are projected well did a home run and trying to weigh that against players who I would potentially want to roster today. You know what? Yanier Diaz. Yanier Diaz is towards the top of our home run odds, and it's not like I'm picking a Coors Field player, not going with like Yordan Alvarez or any of the Braves or anything like that. So I'll pick Yanier Diaz to homer off of John Gray today as my home run call. As for my favorite players for FanDuel at each position, starting at point guard, let me pull up these now. So this is going to be very heavy towards Memphis players. Anybody who asks me questions like, hey, who's your favorite player at each position? Just fair warning that we're going to be talking about a lot of Memphis players. And kind of like yesterday, Bellman and I were doing the strategy show and then doing live before lock. And we're talking about, I know that these players all suck and you might not want to roster them because of the name value, but you cannot get away from rostering Memphis players. Last night, same sort of deal. I mean, they absolutely just crushed the slate. You need to have exposure to Memphis. So with that in mind, my top players at each position: at point guard, Scottie Pippen Jr., shooting guard, that is Jaden Ivey, small forward, Mauzinia Pereira, the UFC fighter, power forward, Gregory Jackson, and then at center, Nikola Jokic.
All right. In chat, Mike Johnson wants to point out that Greg is the embodiment of raw power.
Hey, I hear it all the time. 130 pounds of raw, twisted steel.
All righty. So no news is dropping here. No news is good news, I guess. Or as we wait with bated breath to figure out who Philadelphia and Memphis is playing. We do know that the games tip off at 7, 8, and 9 tonight. So a nice little bit of staggering there. So that will give us time to make adjustments, etc. 50-50, we get any other indications here from Philadelphia or Memphis. From that standpoint, is there anybody that you think is going underrepresented per the tools?
I fought an earthquake and won yesterday, and won.
You fought an earthquake and won?
Yeah, Mother Nature. Did you not see the video?
I didn't see your video. I saw Laffy just staring at the camera, looking like he was watching a ghost.
Oh, you didn't see mine? Yeah, the earthquake happened here while I was on the NBA strategy show yesterday. The earthquake happened in the middle of it.
Really?
Yeah, you could see the.
And did you stay on air? It didn't knock you off air?
No. So the only thing it did is it caused everything to shake. So you could hear everything shaking in my house, and my chair kind of started moving around also because it's on wheels.
Interesting. And have you experienced an earthquake previously?
No, that was a new one for me.
First one. All right. We had quite a few in Washington growing up. So not compared to California and obviously lots of other places, but very scary when it happens. Very scary.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of people watching this or have already heard me talk about it, so they might be bored by this. But yeah, and I haven't talked to EMac about it. But my initial thought was just, my house, because I've never felt it before. So my initial thought was, well, I guess my house is falling. Because like, what else would you think it could possibly be when everything starts shaking? And then I look outside and the trees were all swaying. They were kind of moving around. So I was like, oh, I guess it's an earthquake.
Oh, wow. So it lasted a little while then for trees.
Yeah, it was like 90 seconds.
Oh, that's a long.
Yeah, because so the reason was, as I found out afterwards, the epicenter was 15 miles from my house. Actually, 14.9 to be exact. It was in Tewksbury, New Jersey, which is like a few exits on the highway away from me.
I am familiar with Tewksbury, New Jersey. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that's not where Bob Tewksbury is from. Little baseball reference there, former pitcher. A lot of his career with the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's see here. So Lonnie Walker is a question from King fucking Dash. I can't believe I just said that out loud, but there we are.
That's his name. We got a guy who watches all of our baseball shows, whose name is BBC and Mouth 8 in Discord, watches every show and asks questions. And the people in chat are like, stop doing this bit. It's annoying. We don't like, it's the guy's name in Discord and he asks questions. So there's only so much I can do.
There's only so much you could do. Well, I walked right into that one. That was not intended there. So in any event, Lonnie Walker, a potential pivot away from DFS. DFS was coming in on about 85% of lineups when we were building them out on the Sims earlier today. It's one of those where this is kind of the Brooklyn / Memphis value day. What do you split some hairs for us here?
Sure. So what specifically is the question?
How about how do you feel about Lonnie Walker as a potential? I'm reframing it as a potential pivot from DFS. They can obviously be played together, but would you make an argument for one or the other?
So here's the problem with any potential value play today, right? Anybody on the slate that isn't on the Memphis Grizzlies, they kind of have to be comparable or better than these guys from the Grizzlies for me to really want to consider them. And with Lonnie Walker, how many times have we seen him just like not get into games or anything? We've got him project for less than 10 fantasy points today. It is so hard for me to consider Lonnie Walker, who's probably going to play, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes, as somebody who's going to be able to outscore some of these min-price Grizzlies players that might end up playing 40 minutes today.
Fair enough. That is a very good reason to not go that route. Let's see if we have any other questions, anything fun going on here. Leaving salary might be in play today. Yeah, this is one of those rare circumstances where leaving $1,000, $2,000 not going to be the end of the world at this point. The argument is, oh, well, there's always the ability to pay up for things. Yes, but that's just going to things are going to be rather concentrated.
So I'm pretty opposed to that.
Okay.
If you're leaving that much salary on the table, it probably means you're not rostering Jokic. And you're probably rostering somebody instead of Jokic you could have paid up for him for. I'm looking through my top lineups, my top 150 lineups through our sims. The most salary any of my top 150 projected ROI lineups leaving on the table is 500. I would be very opposed to leaving like $2,000 in salary on the table.
Okay. How do you feel about that in MLB, since we have a hot minute here?
For MLB, like on smaller slates?
Yeah.
There are definitely some smaller slates where it makes sense to leave salary on the table for baseball. In general, though, I'm not going out of my way to leave $2,000 in salary on the table.
Okay. All righty. Let's see here. What else do we have? So operating under the assumption that Embiid sits, where do you like the trickle down going in this cakewalk matchup?
Trickle down for
meaning
what?
Is it Tobias Harris day? Who is it besides Tyrese Maxey?
So just gonna kind of so we'll assume that Joel Embiid's out.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's pull up some of the on-off court numbers here for the 76ers. And we could start talking about what some of these guys would look like with Joel Embiid off the court. Now, keep in mind that Joel Embiid has been out for a very long time now, right? While he's played the last couple of games, we've seen a ton of time with him off the court and what some of these guys have looked like. So we've got a pretty big sample size here in terms of what the usage rate looks like, which players are going to be projected fairly well. And then also, we don't have to be quite as price sensitive for some of the pay up options today because of the fact that there is all of that value that we have on the Memphis Grizzlies. So Tyrese Maxey has a 31.2% usage rate with Embiid off the court this year. Kelly Oubre is at 24.7%. Tobias Harris, 23.3%. It is a little surprising that we haven't seen quite a significant usage bump to Tobias Harris in non-Joel Embiid minutes this year. But once again, pretty big sample size that we've seen here. Tobias Harris has played 1,374 minutes without Joel Embiid this year. He is a 1.03 DraftKings fantasy point per minute guy in those minutes. And then if we look at the overall leader on the team, no surprise at all. Tyrese Maxey, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute, 1.17 FanDuel points per minute when he plays minutes without Joel Embiid. So pretty clearly to me, Tyrese Maxey is somebody who, assuming Joel Embiid sits, we're going to be prioritizing a lot more.
All right. Is there anybody you want to boost on DK?
Let's see. By the way, was there different news? We had Brian Corazian said Embiid will certainly play now. Why is that?
They're trolling that we think that he's out, so now he's going to play.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't shooting. Our set position is that he's going to play one of the next two games, today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow makes the most sense that he is there for
so
that one.
I would be very. It's possible he plays both. I would just be very surprised by it, considering he's only played 2 games coming back from a knee surgery that kept him out for multiple months. So they could play him today and sit him tomorrow. It just to me makes more sense that they would sit him for tomorrow. And then Brian Carizian says, because you're calling him out, that's how this works.
The old famous
honestly,
last words, right?
I wish that's how it worked. I wish I had that kind of power. If I could just be doing a show and be like, hey, I think this guy plays, this guy sits, and then teams are actually acting based on information, that would be fucking sick.
Yeah, that's he does have a good point. We as Josh likes to say, speaking these things into existence. So,
by the way, we did get an update here. So Brandon Clark is available to play today. And then we've got Luke Kennard is unlikely to play. So what does that mean? Because here's news that we're going to be getting that I think is going to confuse people in a little bit. While we just got word that Luke Kennard is unlikely to play, we are going to find out in like an hour or something that he's active, and that's going to confuse people. The reason he is going to be likely active, or they could just make somebody else who's doubtful active instead. They have to have 8 players active to be able to play today. NBA rule, that's the minimum amount you could have. If Kennard isn't able to play, he might have to be active anyway, just so they could field an active roster, but don't roster him. We should be expecting him to play 0 minutes.
Yeah, this is just a disaster. It's gonna be a disaster. Back to the Slack question or a Discord question from Valentino. Do you have any leans for boosts to get a little more of the later 2 games?
Yeah, so as of right now, we do have Joel Embiid in our projections, which is just the standard for us when players are listed as questionable. And once again, I'm just making an educated guess. There's nothing official that Joel Embiid won't play today, but considering that I do think it's fairly likely he doesn't play, I think you want to give yourself an ROI boost to Tyrese Maxey, to Tobias Harris, to basically anybody from the Philadelphia 76ers that could potentially benefit. Now, here's the other thing that makes this super annoying, though. Not only is Joel Embiid questionable, Tyrese Maxey's questionable, and Tobias Harris is questionable. So there's a scenario where none of these guys end up playing. Batum is also questionable. Mo Bamba is questionable. But I do think you should be giving ROI boosts to Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and Kelly Oubre. Just give yourself more flexibility to make changes should we end up finding out that Joel Embiid or whoever else is out from Philly.
All right. Well, in the later game, what's your lean on Aaron Gordon after he popped up on the injury list?
Yeah, so I am going to assume that he sits. The reason I think everybody who is questionable going forward for the Denver Nuggets is more likely to sit than to play. Jamal Murray, the reason that I would consider him maybe a little bit different is just because Jamal Murray's been out for so long. He's going to come back eventually, right? He's not going to sit out the rest of the season. But I do think the intention of the Denver Nuggets is to rest players, make sure they're healthy for the postseason run. We could see some rotations coming for Denver, not today, but in the near future. They do kind of the Celtics type thing where it's like, hey, we play our guys like 70% or 60% of the regular minutes. But at least as far as today is concerned, yeah, my inclination, my best guess is that Aaron Gordon will not play.
All right. And then the same goes for Reggie Jackson. He popped up.
It's an illness, and he's so, in the grand scheme of things, he's irrelevant to them, right? Because we know that what Denver is trying to do down the stretch of the season is just make sure that everybody's healthy and ready to go for the playoffs, still getting the reps in so they have some conditioning. Reggie Jackson, though, is dealing with an illness, and I don't really think that they care. They prefer to have Reggie Jackson healthy than not, but I don't think they care that much. They're not going out of their way to not play Reggie Jackson. So Reggie Jackson, if he's feeling better by the time the game starts, he'll play. But dealing with an illness, if he's out, he won't play. The way that he comes into play to become relevant is if Jamal Murray and Reggie Jackson are both out, then we kind of have to figure out, like, all right, what could Denver potentially do with their point guard minutes? But other than that, the status of Reggie Jackson shouldn't really matter for the slate.
All right. Let's see. Looking at some other questions. How do you feel? How would you compare DFS versus Trendon Watford?
How would I compare Dorian Finney-Smith to Trendon Watford?
Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah. So I don't really view anybody as a massive priority from the Brooklyn Nets. Watford is the guy who overall makes the most sense just because he's a much better pointsman and fantasy producer than Dorian Finney-Smith. So I prefer Watford to DFS, but at the same time, there is a much, much higher priority in getting to the cheap guys from Memphis.
All right. And then we didn't quite cover it, but with Brandon Clark playing, What is your assumption in minutes? 20 to 24?
Yeah. So considering that Brandon Clark is still coming back from the Achilles injury, let's look at the minutes they've played him so far. Like everything that the Grizzlies are doing with Brandon Clark right now is just kind of getting his feet wet before next season. Because next season, we can anticipate he's going to play more of a regular role for this team. So far, these are his minutes played in the 4 games he's been out there. 21, 20, 23, 20. I know the team is shorthanded, but you can't just all of a sudden play Brandon Clark 35 minutes because of the Achilles situation. So the most we've seen him play so far is 23 and a half, probably about in line with what we're getting. 24 minutes is where I'd feel most comfortable saying we get out of Brandon Clark.
All right. In that case, Trey Jamison or Brandon Clark?
Jamison.
Okay. Morning Wind Blues would like to know your favorite 2 plays at each position on DraftKings.
And also one other thing that's relevant to your question there, EMac, is Jamison is also cheaper than Brandon Clark. Well, so we've got Jamison projected for more minutes, more fantasy points, and he's cheaper. So yeah, pretty easy to me that I want to go Jamison over Brandon Clark. And then the other one was favorite 2 plays at every position on DK. Okay, so starting at point guard, that is going to be Xavier Simpson and Jordan Goodwin for me. At shooting guard, Jaden Ivey and Marcus Sasser. At small forward, Mauzinia Pereira and Michael Porter Jr. Power forward, also Mauzinia Pereira and Michael Porter Jr. Gregory Jackson and Jalen Johnson. Those are the next 2. Centers, that is going to be Nikola Jokic and Trey Jamison for me.
All right. Would it shock you to know that on Yahoo, Brandon Clark is 40% less than Jamison?
It wouldn't shock me. It's something, it wouldn't have occurred to me. It's not something I've
How
about that? There wasn't a time today where I was like, I wonder what Brandon Clark's salary is on Yahoo. Does he cost $12? Does he cost $30? I never considered it.
Okay, well, add that to your little checklist. That's going to be important. I would have figured. Joseph Mata says nobody plays Yahoo. EMac. I know, and that's why I continue to play there at reduced rate almost every day. So thank you for not playing there on Yahoo. Let's see.
We just got news, by the way. Jalen Duren is out today.
Okay. So James Wiseman, thoughts?
Fancy play? My first thoughts are, what is his salary? Wiseman is 4,900 over on DraftKings. Okay, so this is going to put Wiseman in play where he wasn't a consideration before. The only issue with Wiseman, but Wiseman also is going to be a very good points per dollar play. The only issue with him is that this still doesn't make him a better option than Jokic or the Memphis value. But yeah, it makes Wiseman look a lot better. It makes him in play where he was not a consideration before.
Okay, and the questions just popping up like with Metu, Clark, Jamison, Wiseman. You're still going with Jameson in these situations, correct?
Yeah. So over Wiseman, you mean?
Yes, Wiseman doesn't.
Jamison over Wiseman.
Okay, that would have been an easier way to ask. I should have done that. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? Well, we talked about Sleeper and the $500 deposit match. We also have our lineup generator, which is a lot of fun. So I will drop the landing page in there. But the lineup generator, we were displaying that on the show earlier today. A lot of fun building out lineups. It is an easy way to do it, especially if you're in a hurry. It utilizes all of the tools behind the scenes at Stochastic and is essentially the same engine that runs the Sims as well, but a little less customization on this one, also for a fraction of the price. But you can build out up to 20 lineup sets. You can influence the players. You can swap the players in and out as you see fit. For basketball, you can actually lock in a player. For baseball, you can set the different stack types you'd like to see. So it's a lot of fun. You can choose contrarian, chalky, balanced, or all of the above lineups. It's a very helpful tool, and it is something that also is going to be supported through the playoffs for the showdown sites as well. But with that, Greg, What else can we talk about with 25 minutes to go?
Yeah, so Michael Bernier in chat asked, how can Brandon Clark and Trey Jemison share the court together? Well, pretty easily, because Brandon Clark has only played 3% of his minutes at center this year. Even the last time we saw him healthy back in 2022, 2023, he played 9% of his minutes at center. They play different positions. So there's not really any kind of impact in that situation.
Different positions. Do you want to see there is a question about the settings on the Sims? Is there a particular one you would look to tonight, given the player pool, the extreme nature of all the value?
Yeah, it depends what contest you're playing in, because it's going to be, so if you're playing, say, like the $1.20 max, it's inherently different than playing like the $555, what is it called, like the alley-oop or whatever. So it's totally dependent on what contest you're playing in. But give me an example, Mac. Which contest are you building lineups for right now?
Oh, let's see, the 20 max $1 or $4.
Yeah, that would be, you put it on the low stakes setting in the contest generator for that.
Okay. And then what about a 3 entry max?
For the 3 entry max, what's the buy? For what buy?
Let's call it 20. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I would just do the marquee setting for that one.
Okay. And then what about 150 max?
The $15?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that would be the marquee setting as well.
Okay. And what is the marquee setting actually doing within that?
Yeah, so the different settings in the contest generator, it's going to build a pool with projected ownership for that specific tournament. So if you're playing lower stakes, what the difference is, those are not as sharp fields. Therefore, the players that are best projected on a points per dollar basis are going to be a bit lower owned than in like the $15, which in turn, then the $15 isn't going to have quite as sharp of a field as, say, like the $555 contest. So that's going to be something you'd put the high stakes setting on, because you're going to get a much sharper field there where people are going to gravitate towards a similar cluster of best points per dollar plays. For example, the Memphis Grizzlies tonight.
That would be a cluster to gather around. Greg, I see what you did there on 2 levels.
We've got a super chat from official Chris Presto channel. He said that he has Pereira in 40% of his lineups with Brandon Clark playing. How many minutes is Pereira projected to play? So there's only going to be a few active players for Memphis. There's a lot of people asking about, like, oh my God, what's going to happen with these players' minutes? They have to play everybody other than Brandon Clark, because Clark is an actual injury restriction. It's going to limit him to like 24 or so minutes. Everybody else is going to have to play somewhat of a significant amount of minutes. I'll tell you what our projections are for it right now. But also, people are asking about guys that don't play the same positions. Like, what is Brandon Clark's impact on Jemison, for instance? It doesn't matter. They play different positions. Same for Pereira against Brandon Clark. But as far as our minutes projections, I'll pull this up and I'll read you guys off all the minutes we're projecting for Memphis players right now.
I want to look and see while you're doing that. I'll look in the background here, but I think at one point they had Goodwin, Pippen, and Xavier Simpson on the court together last night, which is wild. Now I want to see if that is my mind playing tricks on me.
Yeah, so we currently have Pereira in for 29 minutes. And yeah, I mean, 29 minutes for Pereira is our projection. And even that, I think, is pretty conservative. And in 29 minutes, he shows up as one of the top overall plays on the slate.
They did not, in fact, all 3 play together. Okay.
Was that a question?
No, I was trying to remember the game last night because it felt like Goodwin and Pippen and Simpson were out there all the time. I was trying to see if they overlapped. It doesn't look like they did. Simpson did not serve as anybody's direct backup. They only were putting 2 of the 3 on the court at the same time. So that I was trying to think of same position type players that could be.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's. I mean, they're gonna have. There's nobody that you should see on the Grizzlies roster like, oh, that guy might only play 10 minutes. That's not something that exists.
that guy might only play 10 minutes, is the lucky fan in section 123 that will be signing a 1-hour contract with the Memphis Grizzlies to suit up tonight. That guy might play less than 10 minutes, or gal. We'll see. Best 5 plays for the DK slate from Race Fan 22. It's Race Fan Double Deuce.
Yeah, and by the way, we did also just get a projections update for 28 seconds ago, which is going to have some updated minutes for the Memphis players, as well as updates for the Pistons with the James Wiseman now looking better. I'll run through for you guys our minutes projections for every single player right now for Memphis. Jordan Goodwin for 32 minutes. Scottie Pippen, 32 minutes. Gregory Jackson, 34 minutes. Brandon Clark, 26 minutes. And I mean, that could even be a little bit aggressive on Clark for 26 minutes, but I mean, still, you just have to allocate these minutes to somebody. Trey Jemison, 32 minutes. Malzinho Pereira, 31 minutes. Xavier Simpson, 32 minutes. We just gave almost everybody on this team the same amount of minutes.
Yeah. The Detroit lineup is out. Are you ready?
Ooh, yeah, hit me with it.
Sasser, Ivy, Troy Brown Jr., Wiseman. Who do you think the fourth starter is? Fifth starter.
You mean the fifth starter?
The power forward, the 4.
Boy, if you're asking me, it must be something fucking stupid, right?
It's not stupid. It's just Chimezi Metu.
Oh, okay. No, that's a reasonable starting lineup.
It is. It just wasn't what I was thinking this morning in there. So, yeah, sorry, Detroit fans, for a lot of things, but that lineup is one of them.
Yeah, I'm going to rerun lineups in the Sims here and see what other kinds of results that I end up getting, because this is going to change stuff, a little bit with some of these new value that we have for the Detroit Pistons. Like Metu is going to look a little bit better, and then the Memphis situation, obviously, that's going to change some stuff as well. Because I see we have the super chat from RaceFan22, but just want to rerun everything before I determine who the new top plays are for the DraftKings and FanDuel slates.
Right. So this is from Grizzlies PR. Grizzlies today announced they signed forward Timmy Allen to a 10-day contract per team policy deal not disclosed. He played 46 games for the Memphis Hustle during the G League. Undrafted, blah, blah, blah. Second team All-American. I wonder if that means he can suit up tonight, but I don't know why. So potential body, but he's not going to be in the player pool, I don't think. Timmy Allen, though. There you go. That's the part of the season we're at. Guys with 2 first names get contracts.
Yeah, guys with 2 first names that were also on sitcoms many years ago.
Yes. Oh, Tool time. Ah ha ha. I got it. Let's see. Metu season. Ooh, it's something season tonight. We are 17 minutes away from the goodness here. We have no real overlay out there except for Yahoo, but they downsized their contest, so I suspect they will fill. You've got baseball coming in tonight, coming in hot. You're going to get tomorrow, you're going to get the MLB Live Before Lock show leading into the 1 o'clock game. So you're also going to get NBA Live Before Lock tomorrow night, featuring Eric Lindquist on both shows. You're taking the day off. Is that allowed?
So kind of by force. I was told that because I used to do 7 days a week, and I was told I'm not supposed to be able to do that. So I'm mandated from the beings above for me that other than emergency scenarios, I'm supposed to only be working 6 days.
Gotcha. That's why you got to be a contractor. Then it doesn't matter. We got a super chat here from Adrian 432 Texas. He says, I've had a great end of the season with the Simpson shows. Thank you guys. What sim setting would you recommend for the FanDuel 333 Monster 67 total entry contest?
Yeah, so for that, I would put it on the high stakes setting, and then I would also build a pool with 250 lineups for that in the contest generator.
Right. Oh my gosh, it's Leroy Jenkins in the file. That's such an old. That meme is what, 20 years old now? So sad. That's such a classic.
It might even be longer than that. Let me look up Leroy Jenkins meme. When did it originate?
We don't know Embiid's status. Our supposition is he plays tomorrow, not tonight, but we will know later. For those wondering, that game does not tip off until 8 o'clock, so we probably will not have that information.
So May 11th, 2005. So it is 18, almost 19 years old.
All right. Wow. That was a classic. The internet in the early days was so much more innocent. Also, there were some terrifying things, but all righty, I'm gonna upload some lineups here, Greg. I think it's safe to run these. Do you have any exotic plays?
I mean, this is exotic season at this time of year, so they always pop up once you get into the resting and the guys who are on 10-day contracts. Here's something I'm going to run into as an issue, and this is going to be a little bit of a salvation for our friend Eric Lindquist. There are so many of these guys who we're not going to have heard of that pop up on 10-day contracts. We're not going to know who's exotic and who isn't. We're going to have to make some wild assumptions based on what guys' names are. And there's going to be some misfires. There's going to be some guys who are like, oh, that's an exotic. And then you find out like, oh, no, he's actually like Puerto Rican or something like that. There's going to be mistakes made in these scenarios with guys that we've never heard of. Let me see.
We call that the Troy O'Leary effect.
I mean, it's pretty easily Nikola Jokic for today, though. There's just unlimited value to get to him.
All right. And we did cover Race Fan 22 is asking if we covered his. Can you just hit the top two at DK again?
I didn't answer yet because I'm just finishing a run of this.
Well, Race Fan 22. There you go. You're on top of things here.
Yeah. Give me like 1 second here to finish everything up for the latest news. All right, there we go. We're good now. Yeah, because there was, just shit changed from before. Duran ruled out, and we got the Grizzlies a little bit more shorthanded. But anyway, starting at point guard, most rostered point guards as of the most recent run here, it is now Jordan Goodwin and Scottie Pippen Jr. At shooting guard, Jaden Ivey, and then there's like a big drop off. There's nobody else I really have remotely close to the ownership I have on Jaden Ivey. Small forward, Malzinha Pereira and Troy Brown Jr. Power forward, that's also Malzinha Pereira, but then Chimezie Metu as well. And then at center, Nikola Jokic and Trey Jemison as the most rostered centers.
You want to hit FanDuel once more? Do you have that available?
I'm running that now as well.
All right,
I'll have it in like a minute.
So Tech says Leroy Jenkins still a classic.
Leroy Jenkins. All right, let's see. All right, FanDuel's done. FanDuel point guards. Over on the FanDuel side of things at point guard, Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jordan Goodwin. At shooting guard, Jaden Ivey and DeJounte Murray. At small forward, Malzinha Pereira and Jalen Johnson. At power forward, that is Jalen Johnson and Gregory Jackson. And then at center, Nikola Jokic and Chimezie Metu.
At least I have chicken. That's...
How are you doing? What sites are you playing on tonight, EMac?
I've got my one Yahoo lineup in. I've already uploaded my MLB lineup, so I'm not playing MLB on Yahoo. Maybe I'll build one lineup before we get there, and I'm just now sorting through my Sims for DK.
Nice. And how many sports are you playing at once as well?
Well, MMA is going on right now. Madden Sims just started. Golf is going on. Tennis is going on. College basketball is going on. Oh, hockey in play as well. The NASCAR Xfinity is going on tonight. So quite a few, Greg. Some would say all of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of action you're getting in there at once. It's a lot of lineup building for old pal EMac there. So if we go ahead and, by the way, somebody in chat was asking, who's the pivot off of him? If you're not playing Embiid at the high end, you're playing Jokic instead. You should be playing Jokic, in my opinion, at center.
That's funny. I ended up with 72% Jokic, very similar to what you had said. I'm going to boost that.
There we go. We've got a question in the Discord channel from COVID Bryant II. Said, I've never understood Madden Sims. How does that work? The way it works is the DraftKings YouTube channel, they have the computer playing against the computer, 2 games playing each other in Madden, and then they just count up the stats, and those are the stats your players score. As people in chat say, 1-800-GAMBLER.
What? Hey, it's not an addiction. It's a dedication. I have this conversation with my wife. At least she knows where I am. I'm sitting in front of my computer.
We've got a bunch of questions that came into Discord here as well. First is from Bees in Yo Ass. Bees in Yo Ass says, with Metu starting, should that put him ahead of Watford on DK? Now, yes, absolutely. Then Moddub T says, getting to Jalen Noel. No, I do not think that Jalen Noel is somebody who you need to be getting to. Let me see. My lineups, do I have? Yeah, no. Any of these guys who are projected for like barely over 10 fantasy points, you don't need to get that cute on this slate. There's like actual real legitimate value, even though it's only on a 3-game slate. Next question here is 4-prong dinger. Embiid. Embiid is still officially listed as questionable. My expectation is that he does not play. If he's active, I assume that they play him fairly limited minutes today.
Agreed. On that, I would be shocked if we see more than 30 minutes prior to the end of the season. I think he's going to be in that 28 to 30 minute range. It's kind of a gift for Philly to have him, at least with all the other nicks and dings, healed up at this point, aside from the knee.
Somebody in chat was saying that there's overlay for baseball. Doesn't look like there's really overlay for baseball. Maybe check though. Maybe look. I mean, like the $9 on FanDuel does have 1,500 spots open, but those are probably going to fill in the next 13 minutes or come close to it. Mr. Sledge to you said Pippen or Goodwin for today. So if we're going towards
Goodwin, that's usually my default position.
Pippen or Goodwin. And does price matter? There's a big price gap between them. I get some more exposure to Scottie Pippen, but that is largely because Goodwin is so also, is it a FanDuel or DraftKings question? The answer is Goodwin if price doesn't matter or anything.
Oh, hot. So I have filters.
How you doing on your lineups there, EMac?
They're up. They're in. We're good.
Justin McCord asked, is it safe to forget about the first game, wait on Philly and Denver news and Memphis starting lineup? I would. It's only a 3-game slate. I would not forego getting yourself exposure to the first game.
Yeah, that it doesn't make sense. That being said, I have Cam Thomas and Trendon Wofford are on my Yahoo lineup, so I'm not even skipping that on my one gamer. The name we didn't really say, or we didn't really talk a lot about Atlanta at much length here. So you've got DeJounte Murray in the 21 or so games that Young has been out. He has just been tearing it up. He is averaging just over 20 field goal attempts per game, playing like 39 minutes, averaging like 25 or 26 points, half a dozen assists, or probably 9 assists, almost half a dozen rebounds, 2 combined blocks and steals. He's pretty awesome. Jalen Johnson is back. He dropped a 70 fantasy point game. I don't think we would expect that at altitude anytime soon, but I think he is in play. And then DeAndre Hunter is also a guy I like, along with Bogdanovich. Not so much for Capella tonight, though.
Yeah, so Atlanta Hawks, let me look at my exposures to them. So the issue you're going to run into with the Atlanta Hawks players is nobody on the cheap end is remotely viable for the Atlanta Hawks, because you want to take chance on like a Cody Buffkin or Bruno Fernandes. Like, for what? What are the odds these guys outscored the Memphis players? Slim to none. But then if you look at the high end, there are guys I prefer to DeJounte Murray, like, Tyrese Maxey if Joel Embiid is out, or Nikola Jokic, who it's not all that difficult to get up to. So between DeJounte Murray and Jalen Johnson, they're the only two players I get any exposure to from Atlanta, but they're not priorities. This is not a team that I'm really getting a lot of exposure to.
All right, I'm putting the free article link into the YouTube chat there for baseball for you guys. Reed Detmers is probably the top pitcher. Gaussman is second, in my opinion. We got 4 minutes to go here.
So back in chat, we are caught up on questions here. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that there was nothing else that was going on over there. From the playback side of things, we've got some questions. There's some stuff regarding baseball. We've also got I don't know what those organizations are, Ghostface Kicker, so I'll have to look them up. And then somebody else asked us, Vic David asked, is Hunter Tyson a good play if Gordon sits on DK? No. And Big Top Dog asked, do I lean towards Jamal Murray being in or out? Probably more likely to sit than play, but it's not one I have like a super strong lean on. And also, Nikola Jokic for today, because he just projects so much better than every other option on the slate, whether Jamal Murray's in or not, it is going to impact the projection for Jokic, but it actually won't really impact the amount of exposure you should get to him, if that makes sense. Because the relevance of Nikola Jokic's slate is just how many of the cheap guys go off. And then you just need the fantasy points from somebody.
For those of you familiar with Eitan Shander, who is also known as Shander Show on Twitter and does a ton of odd shopper stuff for us, he took down $5,000 for the Lakers showdown slate today.
Good for Eitan. Good for Eitan.
He's not a hardcore DFS player, but he embraces the Sims tool.
Yeah, Eitan had a lot of success for NFL season as well. Won some I think he won like 2 or 3 NFL showdown GPPs as well. I like the congrats Eitan messages, but spelling his name like he's DeAndre Ayton.
Oh, good times. Good times. Just checking here. You know, I could actually build out a Yahoo lineup and then go edit it and just not play anybody in that first game.
That is something you could do. Not something I recommend doing, but you can do it.
I like Gaussman. For baseball, that is. For baseball. What's Gaussman playing? Gaussman does start at 7:05. Boom.
Oh, we're starting to get news here. Tobias Harris is out. Go on, give us the rest of the 76ers news. Well, at least we know Tobias Harris is out. You would assume the news on Maxey and Embiid is shortly behind. Doesn't mean a whole ton until we get it.
No.
Kelly Oubre looks better with Tobias Harris out. This is certainly not actionable before lock at this point.
No. And we've got 45 seconds. So.
All right. So I guess there is no more 76ers news coming. But anyway, Tobias Harris is out. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, still officially questionable.
You know what we should do, Greg? We should remind everybody that they can go on over here to Playback and watch the NBA games.
That they can. They can go check out the NBA over on Playback after the show ends. And yeah, we leave the stream running over there. And occasionally I pop in and answer people's questions. Today, I'm probably not going to because it's a Saturday night. But yeah, usually we usually have at least one of us active in there for most of the night.
I was in there most of last night because I was winning baseball and basketball, and I regretted staying up so late. It was a long day today, Greg. I'm ready for dinner and an early bedtime tonight.
Yeah, the basketball slate last night was a good one.
It was fun. There was nice sequencing of all the games too. So Good times. Let's see. I think that's it, Craig. We can get on out of here.
We have reached the end of the show. The slate is locked.
All right, so we'll go over there, turn playback on, but we are locked. So thank you to producer Jacob. Thank you to Sleeper for being the presenting sponsor for this show. Go into the YouTube description below us here. Click on that link to join Sleeper. Get up to a $500 deposit match with your first deposit. We talked about the lineup generator. We got all sorts of goodness out there. We got the stochastic data package. You guys can get that if you're not into the Sims but still want the data. That is something you can get as well. We also are offering $100 off per month of that subscription if you are repping the stochastic avatar. So good deal with that. But otherwise, you could follow Greg on Twitter at @Ehrenberg DFS. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.